Hey guys, welcome back to another video. And hope you guys have been liking this college football stuff. I want to do more of, more stuff like this, along with covering the NFL when the season gets started. And today I'll be making my official 2025 college football playoffs. I'll go through who I have winning each conference, each of the seeds based off how I have each team finishing. If you haven't checked out my record predictions for each of the Power Four conferences, the SEC, Big Ten, ACC, and Big 12, hope you guys go check those videos out. Um, and yeah, let's get into it. I'm going to show you my playoff predictions for this upcoming year. Starting with my top seed, my SEC champion, the Texas Longhorns. I just trust Texas to get back, and I think this year they will win it. If you look at their schedule, outside of three hard road games against Ohio State in week one, Florida, and then Georgia later in the season, the schedule is pretty easy for them to make it back to the SEC championship game. Like if they split the Florida Georgia games, um, the rest of their schedule really isn't that hard. So it's like I feel like the schedule's pretty easy where it's like they're going to make it back. Um, I know a lot of people have said, Alabama's going to win at Georgia, LSU, but I just trust Texas to, make it back. Moving on to my two seed, which is going to be my Big Ten champ, the Penn State Nittany Lions. Um, I think this is their year, though I do think they once again lose to Ohio State in the regular season, just because James Franklin seemingly can't beat them. But I think the Nittany Lions, like, even if they lose that game, the rest of their schedule is pretty easy outside of like the Oregon game and on the road at Iowa. Um, and I think if they rematch against Ohio State, I think Penn State will get the better of the Buckeyes, winning it. Moving on to my three seed, the Clemson Tigers. I think they win the ACC. Um, they have a loaded team: Cade Klubnik, T.J. Parker, Peter Woods, Avion Terrell, Antonio Williams. I mean, the team is stacked to the brink with talent that more than likely will be going out to the NFL, whether it's this upcoming year or the following year. So I just think Clemson's going to be back to being the dominant, you know, Clemson we saw in the 2010s when with Deshaun Watson, Trevor Lawrence, and those dominant Clemson teams always making it to the playoffs. And then the final team I've given a bye to is my Big Ten runner-up, Ohio State Buckeyes. Um, yeah, I think Ohio State, even losing a lot of talent last year because most of those guys were seniors, um, who went up to the NFL. I think even with an experienced quarterback like Julian Sayon, the Buckeyes are going to be once again Big Ten threats. Um, and I think I mean they could win the Big Ten this year and get a bye, but I think just the way the Big Ten, like I just think the Big Ten's also a better conference than the SEC, which is why I have them getting two bye weeks, bye teams, not bye weeks. Moving on to the fifth seed, I have the South Carolina Gamecocks. I'm really high on Shane Beamer, Lenora Sellers, and this Gamecock team. I know they lost a lot of defensive pieces, and the offense isn't really, the greatest, but I just believe wholeheartedly in um Shane Beamer and in this South Carolina team where it's like I think that they'll be able to continue to play well on the defensive side, where it's like they can make it to the SEC championship game, which I have them doing losing to Texas. Um, so yeah, moving on to my sixth seed, my Big 12 champ, the Baylor Bears. Um, yeah, I think the Big 12 once again only gets one team. Maybe if Arizona State goes like 11-1 or undefeated, but then like loses, like we saw TCU do a couple years ago. Maybe they could get two teams in, but it just seems like the way like the way the conferences are looked at, the Big 12 seems like they're like it's a wild conference where it's like whoever wins the Big 12 is gonna get in, unless like a scenario where like one team's like undefeated or with one loss, and if that team loses, then like they both get in. Um, but I think Baylor steps up this year. Their 6 game winning streak at the end of the year, I think, carries over, and I think they win it this year. The seventh seed, I got Notre Dame, even with a new quarterback in CJ Carr, who I think will play really well and be able to help out this Fighting Irish passing attack and make it more efficient. Um, and even though their schedule is a lot tougher this year than it was last year, it's just a lot of those games. I think Notre Dame, even though they're going to be on the road, still win. And I think they're going to be knocked because not being in a conference, um, not playing against a lot of elite top 25 teams. I think the committee's going to be like, the Fighting Irish will make it, but they're not going to be a bye team or one of these higher seeds. And then the final team I have getting a bye is Oregon. I just believe in Dan Lanning. I believe Dante Moore will have a great year, and I think the Ducks once again will get back. I don't know if they'll make the Big Ten championship game again, but I think they will once again be competing, and they once again make the playoff. Moving on to the 9th seed, I got Alabama returning to the playoffs. I think Alabama, once again, really good year. I think a lot of people are just trusting Ryan Grubb coming, joining Kalen DeBoer back now in Alabama is going to fix everything. I don't know if that'll truly happen. Um, but I think also Ty Simpson is going to like struggle early because I think he's only had like 50 career pass attempts. So it's like in 3 seasons, he's only had 50 career pass attempts. I feel like he's gonna have early struggles, at least against like some of like some of like the good teams they're gonna play. But I think by far they have an easy schedule where it's like that defense is gonna be able to dominate. And as long as Ty Simpson doesn't turn the ball over or play horribly, they get the wins. The 10th seed, I've got Washington making it, 4 Big 10 teams like it was last year, 3 SEC, 2 ACC, and 1 Big 12. Um, I believe in Jed Fish. I believe in Damon Williams and this Huskies team to play really well. Like you look at their schedule, um, and it's like outside of Michigan, their 3 other toughest opponents, Ohio State, Illinois, and Oregon, all are at home. And if they win 2 of those 3 games at home and maybe beat Michigan or lose it, I feel like they can make the playoffs. I feel like they can get 10 wins, maybe even 11. Maybe they pull off an upset over Ohio State because they are at home against the Buckeyes. Um, but I think Washington, kind of like Indiana last year, they're going to be a team where like a lot of people are thinking they're going to be decent, and then like they beat up on a lot of teams that aren't really the greatest, and then they pull off an upset win, whether it's against Oregon or Ohio State, and jump into playoffs. Moving on to the 11th seed, I got Georgia Tech, who I think will lose to Clemson in the ACC title game. I think the Yellow Jackets have a lot of returning production and are going to be really good this year. I mean, you look at their schedule. They play Clemson at home. They do have to go to Boulder and on the road at Duke, but like outside of those games, I feel like Georgia Tech has a pretty easy schedule where it's like they're not going to lose many games, and I feel like it's going to be easier for them to make it. And I think they beat Georgia this year. I think even though it will be a neutral site game this year, not on campus, which kind of sucks because like these are big rivalry games that they're putting to off campus stadiums. But I think Georgia Tech upsets them this year and makes the playoff. And then finally, my group of five champ, I've got Tulane. I know Boise State. A lot of people think will make it back, but I feel like Tulane. They're just always consistent. And last year, if they had beaten Memphis in the final week, and then won the American Conference Championship, they would have been 11-2 with possibly a shot to overtake Boise State. So I just feel like Boise, even though they're still going to be really, really good, because Ashton Genty, while he was a great piece, I don't think he was the full team. I just feel like Tulane this year, they're gonna, and they play they play three power conference teams: Northwestern, Duke, and Ole Miss. I mean, if they beat Ole Miss and Duke, like if they win all three of those games, or at least two of the three, I feel like with the way their schedule looks in the American, I feel like they could win double-digit games and make it to the playoffs. But now let's get into my playoff predictions, starting with the 5-12 South Carolina hosting Tulane. And, as much as I want to pick the group of five team, I'm really high on South Carolina in the Gamecocks, and I think they get the win. Alabama at Oregon, interesting matchup. The Ducks last year were the only undefeated team and were the top seed, then get blown out by Ohio State. Can they get a rebound here, or will Kalen DeVore and the Crimson Tide get the win? I'm going to say Alabama pulls off the upset. Last year, all of the home teams won. I think this year, with it being more of top four teams get the buys, and then the rest. I think having it that way, where it's like it's not the top four champions, it's just the top four teams. I think these first round matchups will be more evenly matched, where it's like you could see an upset being pulled off. Moving on to Baylor hosting Georgia Tech. Two teams I think will be surprises this year. Even though a lot of people do agree that they'll be contenders, I think they will be surprises. I'm going to say Baylor at home gets the win and move on to take on Clemson. And then Washington, Notre Dame. This will be an interesting matchup. Notre Dame, if they win, they will get a rematch against Penn State from the semifinal game. Washington, do they pull off the upset? I'm going to say they do. I'm going to say Washington gets the upset over Notre Dame. Moving on, South Carolina, Ohio State. As high as I am on the Gamecocks, I think Ohio State's the better team. Alabama, Texas. This could be a SEC championship rematch if these two make it, which it could be likely. I'm going to take Texas but as the home team to get the win. Clemson hosting Baylor. I believe in Clemson this year. I think they are a real title threat. And then Washington, Penn State, Big Ten. Um, that a Big Ten game now. Craziness. I'm gonna take the Nittany Lions to beat Washington. OSU Texas rematch. Are we gonna get it once again for a shot at the national championship? I think this year Texas gets it done. I think the Longhorns get it done, win the game. Um, and yeah, and then Clemson, Penn State, 3-2 matchup. Who moves on? I'm gonna take Clemson. I think the Tigers. I'm high on Clemson this year to possibly go undefeated and maybe be that number 1 team. All said and done. Texas, Clemson rematch of a first round match of last year, which Texas won. Mm, I'm gonna I'm gonna go with Clemson to be my national champion this year. So yeah, so I've got South Carolina over Tulane, Alabama over Oregon, Baylor over Georgia Tech, and then Washington over Notre Dame. Then Ohio State beats South Carolina. Texas beats Bama. Clemson beats Baylor. Penn State over Washington. Texas over Ohio State. Clemson over Penn State, and then Clemson over Texas to be the national champions. Um. So yeah, those are my official playoff predictions. Um. Let me know down in the comments who you think will win the national championship. Do you think, some of these teams won't make it? Do you think other teams will? Let me know down in the comments. Hope you guys enjoy this video. Hope you guys have a great day. Subscribe, like, comment, and see you.